Hello, my name is William Stanley Henderson Jr., and I'm going to talk to you tonight about the healing of Billie so that you'll have an understanding of what the healing of Billie is about. Now, after suffering several years of physical, mental, emotional, sexual, and spiritual abuse, I found myself with a fragmented mind. It was like I had all these little characters running around in it, and I could hear all kinds of conversations going on. And I never really knew what it was. I mean, for me, that was normal. I don't know what goes on inside of anybody else's head, but I would say that most people are fragmented in one way or another. Maybe not as many as I had. It was like 100 people all running around inside of my head, and I could never concentrate. I could never do good in school. I would always just space out into outer space. And one thing that has always stuck with me was the fact that I was raised as a Baptist. I believe that there's a God. I may not know what that God is. I don't believe in the God of religion, of any kind of religion. I don't really believe in the devil, but I do believe in duality of right and wrong and good and bad. Now, as I was writing the healing of Billie, I have gone through my whole lifetime writing more or less an autobiography of myself, putting everything on paper that was in my mind. Now I'll back up a little bit because I got into alternative spirituality back in about 1982. And I've been through channelers, I've channeled myself, I've done psychic readings and been to psychics. I believe in extraterrestrials. I've never seen one, but on the other hand, I've never seen an angel either. I've never seen God and I've never seen Satan. But back in about 1991, I went through an episode where my guides and my higher self, because it was coming from within me that I was hearing the steps to take, I didn't really know what it was about. All I knew was they were telling me just hold your breath, just hold your breath. And so I kept holding my breath, and it was like I was holding it, waiting for them to say now, and they weren't saying now, and I would let go of the breath, and I would say, "What are you trying to kill me or what?" You know, I didn't know what was going on, but I knew of my guides and my angels. Like I said, I channeled them, and I've been into the spirituality for several years. So I had already built a trust with my higher consciousness and my guides and my angels. But I always saw everything outside of myself. My angels were outside of myself. God was outside of myself. And so on this day, I kept going. They kept saying, hold your breath and hold your breath. And finally, I just held my breath. I thought I was going to die. And all of a sudden, I went out of my body into my mind. And then once I was completely in my mind and out of my body, there was these portals that were shown to me that led into the higher consciousness of self. Now, as I went through these portals, the first place that I came to was the astral plane. And in the astral plane, I saw all this negativity. I mean, I saw little bicycles riding by and little kids going by, and all just anything that you could think of negative was in there. And so I asked them what it was, and they said, "Well, that's your diseased mind." And I never had been able to look at it in the manner of that. And then they said, "Here, we're going to pop through the next portal." And we popped through that portal, and I was in the causal plane. They said, "This is the place where everything can be created from. You can come here. It's like an easel, and you can create. You can see, look, and see what you're going to create with your life, or what you have created with your life." And then it was like a little game that was being played with me, and I didn't quite understand what it was. I still don't quite understand what it was, but they would give me riddles to solve. And as I solved the riddle, I went through each portal. So after I left the causal plane, I stepped into Christ consciousness. It was very loving, very peaceful, very quiet. There was no one there. And it was showing me the expansion and how big our consciousness is. Because in the Christ energy, all I saw was just infinity. There was no shape, there was no form, there was no nothing there, just peace. And so as I laid there on my bed in my mind like this, and just absorbing all this love, energy, and the consciousness that I was in, they said, "Okay, now it's time to go into the Mother, Father, God consciousness." Or first it was the Mother consciousness of creation. And they asked me a few more questions, and I gave my answer to the questions, and I popped through the portal. And there I was in a very loving and caressing energy. And it too was infinite. It was just incredible. And then a few more questions, and I popped into this is the God creation. This is where all things can be created from. And as I reached that level of consciousness, it was just so magnificent, and I didn't want to come back. I wanted to just stay there. And when they said it's time to come back, I said, "No, I'm not going back. I want to stay here. I don't want to go back into my body. I don't want to go back to Earth. I just want to stay here." And finally, after they talked to me, they said, "Now look, you've got work that you're going to do on Earth. You have your spiritual journey that must continue in the flesh." And they said, "Don't worry. Just don't worry about it. We're going to go back down through the portals now." And so I came down through the portals, or I think they were the higher chakras of myself. And as I came back through these portals. I came back a lot faster than I went up. I mean, I was allowed to absorb the energies. I was allowed to absorb and feel what it was like to be on the different levels of consciousness. And as I entered again into the astral plane, and I saw all the baggage, for lack of a better word, all the baggage that I was carrying from my whole life. And I was about 41 then. I'm 63 now. And as I came through that astral plane and entered my mind, all of that astral plane came down into my physical mind. And they said, "What do you want to do with this?" And I said, I don't know. What am I supposed to do with it? And then after a few minutes or seconds, I don't know, I had lost track of time. There's no time or feeling of time there. And I said, well, let's just put it in my heart so that it can receive love and be loved. And so that's what happened. The astral plane of my consciousness went to my heart. Now, in reality, there are no levels of consciousness. It's one consciousness. But for our understanding, we call them levels of consciousness because when we step into another part of our consciousness, we view them as levels. But in reality, our whole mind is everything that we see. The stars, the moon, the sun, everything in creation is in our consciousness. So then I realized that my mind was peaceful. I had no more noise in my mind. And I have a being, a yogi named Kabir, who has guided me through my whole life. I didn't know that it was him because there were several times that I had an encounter with the spirit being, but I didn't know the being's name. Until one day I was with a group of people that we were all trying to figure out who this being was that was coming through this channel and this channeling group that I belonged to, and eventually Kabir identified himself. Kabir has taught me a lot, and I owe him a lot. I don't really owe him, but for human sake, I say I owe him because he's been there for me all the time, and he'll be with me for who knows how long. Now, from 1941 until 2002, I channeled here in Kansas City, Missouri. I did psychic readings. I had groups that came together, and one by one they would grow and they would leave, and then one day it was, okay, you have to stop channeling. You need to stop doing psychic readings. And I didn't understand why. And I couldn't really grasp a clear answer. I just knew that an incident happened with a friend of mine that lived down in Florida. And he called me one day and he said that he had cancer. And the information that I was getting was tell him he does not have cancer. And it's like, well, why do I want to tell him he doesn't have cancer when he's telling me he's got cancer? And then I thought, well, maybe it's a misdiagnosis or something. And so I told him, I said, Ed, you don't have cancer. And he goes, I've got the x rays. The doctors tell me I have cancer. And I said, well, Ed, I'm sorry. I can send you love energy, healing energy. I can send it to you. But all I'm getting is you don't have cancer. And that made me very upset. And I thought, now here's my friend. He's in a time that he needs me. And I'm telling him just the opposite of what doctors are telling him. So, since I already had that feeling that I was going to stop channeling and stop doing psychic readings, I said, this is it. I'm not doing it anymore. If I can't get a clear answer, if I don't understand the answer that I'm getting anymore, then I have to stop. I can't continue because I won't give people misinformation. So I shut down, and boy, let me tell you, that was a weird feeling in my heart. I just felt like everything that I had known for the last 14 years had just crumbled. And I went through a lot of other experiences, but I want to get back to my point. And the point is, well, I was writing The Healing of Billie. Now, all that stuff that was in my consciousness, I had put in my heart. And now what I was hearing in my mind, I'm hearing in my heart. And it's all getting love. But it's still kind of confusing when you hear all this stuff in your heart now and you don't have it in your head. So as I'm writing The Healing of Billie, I take on the idea that I am God, because I think that basically we are. And I take on the aspect of Satan, the good and the bad side of myself. And I believe that we're all Satan too, because we all love and we all hate. It's the duality that I'm getting at in The Healing of Billie. Now, as I'm writing and I'm seeing all these different things that I'm writing about my fragmented self and naming each part of myself and sewing them together, I say that it's my mind that I'm healing, but actually it's my heart that I'm healing. And I didn't discover that until today, which is the 28th of April, 2014. But at the same time, I don't see a separation between mind and body. I see the whole body from head to toe, consciousness. It's all mind. And it all talks to each other. Every organ talks, and every blood cell talks, and every heartbeat talks to the mind, and the mind is talking back, and the body is able to function that way through the electrical system of our spinal cord and our heart. And so tonight I'm sitting in my living room, and I'm just got through with my dinner and smoking a cigarette, and I thought, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do some writing. I'm kind of feeling heavy-hearted tonight because that's what I usually do. I usually sit down and write, and only in the last few days have I started doing videos. And so this video here tonight is a beginning for me because instead of sitting down and writing it and having it come out, I'm not writing, I'm just talking. And it's a little different, but it's actually the same. But anyway, the fragmented self, as I said, I made my main character God. And that was the good side of me. That's the side that is the love and the peace and the tranquility. And then Satan, I used as the dark side of myself. I mean, we have a dark and a light side. And we're all children and we evolve into our adult self. So, Billie, the child, being very loving and caring and innocent. And then the dark side of Billie is the one that suffered all the mental abuse and all of that. And I had fragmented him, I had separated him. And so, as you're healing, as I was healing the inner child of myself, there's so much anger that comes out. So much anger that comes out. And so, in all the writings of the healing of Billie, there's 12 volumes, and I have individual writings, and I'll be having the videos um, in my store as my website comes up, hopefully around the 3rd of May. And I've always shied away from politics because I never really understood politics. I never really trusted politics. Um, I only have a ninth grade education. I dropped out of school twice, went in the Marine Corps for a couple of years. And I vote, but I don't want to get off into the politics now. I want to stay with the healing of Billie and just get into the fact that as you read these books, the anger that I have towards religion, that's where I believe I got most of my spiritual abuse. I mean, mental abuse basically is spiritual abuse because our mind is spirit. Our whole consciousness, from the mind all the way through to our feet, we're spirit inside of a body. That's the way I believe. And as I'm releasing this anger towards religion, and I really released a lot of anger towards the Catholic Church because of the pedophiles and the lies. And it happens in all religions. It's not just Catholic. It's not just any one religion. It happens in all of them. We probably just don't hear about it or they haven't got caught yet. And as I'm viewing myself and I'm reading this stuff, I'm thinking, my God, where did all that anger come from? And it's built up anger that we don't realize that we have buried in our consciousness somewhere. The astral plane gets full and it comes down into your mind, gets pulled into your body, and we have stuff hidden all through us that we don't know where it is. I believe that that causes a lot of pain in the body, a lot of the diseases in the body. And we then say, well, this is a sickness. Well, what caused the sickness to begin with? Well, doctors don't seem to know what causes this disease, that disease, and is becoming more relevant today. But in the healing of Billie, I explain about the disease mind and the disease being Satan. That the reason for our creation was to have duality so that we would experience both good and bad. And the ultimate goal of creation is to be able to one day end the disease so that we can live in heaven on earth. We've been living in hell on earth for a long, long, long time. I mean, history shows all the wars and all the lying and the cheating and the deceit from from one country to another country to another country. No country is any different. And the lies that people get with religion because religion has been tampered with. And I'll just go back as far as Christ. What we read in our Bibles today is not what Christ taught. Christ taught love. And so as I progress into the book and I'm letting out all this anger and I'm releasing all these energies within me and I'm bringing myself into my wholeness. And as you bring yourself into your wholeness, your spiritual body and your physical body align as one instead of being separated, because we look at ourselves as being separated because we see ourselves as mind and body. We don't see ourselves as consciousness. And as you align and you make yourself whole, then you're bringing the disease into your center. You're bringing the disease into where you can give it love and learn to love the disease. Now, I believe that all diseases can be healed without medication. I believe that diseases can be healed just by healing through bringing ourselves back to our oneness. Now, my mind is clear. My heart is just got one little voice in it because I'm learning to blend all that to where I go into the knowing, that I hear nothing. I don't hear any inner voice. I don't hear a voice in my head. You step into the knowing of self. Now, when it comes down to it, there's so many different beliefs on the earth that nobody knows if this person over here is telling the truth. Is this religion over here telling the truth? Why is these people over here saying there's no God, and there's people over here saying there's a God, and there's no Satan, and there's a Satan, and there's extraterrestrial beings, and there's not extraterrestrial beings, and it gets crazy. But the whole purpose of all of that is to get us to seek and to find our own truth, whatever that truth is. Now, your truth right now may be that you're in love with the Pleiadian ETs, or you're a Baptist and you believe in God, and you're an atheist and you don't believe in God, and you believe in fairies and gnomes and angels and so forth and so on. But when you get tired of searching outside of yourself, when you find out the answers are good and they're all truth, there's nothing out there that is not a truth. Everything is a truth of some kind. then you say, well, I'm not satisfied. There's just something that's still missing. And you start taking the inward journey. And you start realizing that none of that was out there to begin with, it was all inside of you. And as you journey into your heart and open your heart, then you have your truth. You have your real truth. You don't have somebody else's truth. And you can then live in the love of your own truth. And sometimes I think love, that's the only truth there is. But what does that encompass? Love. Is love a passive love? Is it a tough love? Sometimes you have to tell somebody something that they don't want to hear, but it's up to you to say it. And then it's up to them to accept it or reject it. So, in the healing of Billie, this is where it has brought me. It has brought me into the heart and to finish up the healing on this level of consciousness. And what's happened is that the causal plane and the Christ consciousness have already entered my physical being. And that's why the astral plane of my mind went to my heart for healing. And this is what's happening to a lot of people on the planet today. Is that we're no longer out here trying to get things done and cleaned up and everything. We're bringing that consciousness in to us. And as we bring that consciousness into us, there will be a lot of masters on this earth that will ascend with their bodies. We will be like Christ, and a lot, Kabir, Christ, well, we saw him, he took his body with him. Kabir just walked off the face of the earth after hundreds of years. And we will be doing the same. And for those who have been into the alternative spirituality, I shall call it, because it steps outside the norm of religion, which used to be. I don't think that religion's that much of a norm anymore. But we understand these things. And we understand what our journey was and what we came here to do to make people aware that there is an alternative spirituality, that there are extraterrestrials here, that there are masters here. There's yogis who can perform all kinds of what we call miracles here on the earth. But my message basically is to the awakened population. Now, the time is speeding. Now, if you notice, days go by so much faster than they used to. It just seems like today's Monday and the next thing you know it's Friday. It's almost as if somebody took the clock and sped it up and we're just going just as fast as we can from Monday to Monday and everything's on automatic pilot. And because of this, and because of all the people that have been doing this for years and years and years and years, bringing in the higher consciousness of extraterrestrials and of higher deities, we have all made it possible to where this next wave of awakening is going to be much quicker, because we have already raised the vibration of the consciousness to a point now to where people don't have to go out and seeking channels. They don't have to go out and seek the information about the ETs. Everything's on the web, which has sped things up. Now, because of this higher vibration, and as we go into the heart, then basically it can be done in a matter of months. Because now, instead of awakening through the mind, we're going to awaken people through the heart. And when people awaken through the heart, that energy is going to connect the mind and the heart and the sexual and the feet. It's going to connect the whole consciousness and allow them to wake up much faster. And it's because of the work that we've all done over the last hundreds of years. And I don't have to say who it is. You all know who you are and what you've been doing for the last 50, 60 years, 10 years, 5 years. But this is a shift change. This is where we get to raise into a higher level of consciousness by bringing that consciousness into us and not leaving here to go get it. It'll be a time of unification for all people on the planet. And basically, what I found, I went to different channels. I was looking all over the place, man. I had Crohn's disease. Back then, nobody knew what caused it. They didn't really know how to stop it. And I searched everywhere for an answer. And I was always looking outside of myself for that answer. I was going to channels and psychics, and I looked everywhere that I could, science of mind, and got into the metaphysical aspects of spirituality. That's a horrible disease to have, Crohn's disease, let me tell you. But now, I was able to go into my heart, and in 5 months, I wrote The Healing of Billie. I let it all out. I got rid of it. And it basically depends on a person's belief system. Because if a person actually could believe right now, right in this moment, the sickest person on this planet right now, if they believed it, they could heal themselves instantly. That's the vibration that we've created for them. But if they can't accept it, then the heart has to be opened and set free, and that love will just take over the whole consciousness. And what took us years to do is now only going to take months. Now, in my Healing of Billie, I call it the Cosmic Age, the Golden Age of Truth. And I know that truth has always come up before. People get caught doing things. But I've noticed in the last few months how more and more on TV, your big people in politics and religion, the truth is automatically coming out. They get caught. And the more that we love, and the more that we help everybody open up to the love of the heart, the more the truth has to surface. And for lack of a better word, I'm just going to say repentance. The way I look at it, the healing of Billie was my repentance. All the things that I thought were bad is in that book, and the good of me is in that book. But I know that I never sinned. I know that it's just only good and bad, but I know it now. But then I felt like I was a big sinner. I felt like I was just Satan. There was no love there. I was so confused and confounded, and I had gone through the 60s and the 70s with drugs and alcohol. I have so many diseases. I probably take 10 different medications, but that's a good thing today. And it's been happening for a while, but today I had a doctor's appointment, and I walked in there and I was talking to him, and he says, well, what about this medication? I said, well, doc, I quit taking all my pain medication. My pain's gone. I had spinal stenosis, and the pain was so bad in my back and down my legs that I was taking 3 different pain medications trying to just alleviate the pain. And when I got about 3/4 of the way through of the healing of Billie, all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, that pain, it's gone. So little by little, I took myself off the pain medications. I'm no longer on a cholesterol medication. And I have a list that maybe I'll do another video and just show the list of all the medications that I took. And there must be about 6 or 7 of the medications now that I've eliminated. And God, you don't know how good that feels to get off of that stuff, you know? But everything has a purpose. Everything has its reasons. And the diseases that I have left, they'll heal when there's no longer a need for them. For some reason, there's a need in my consciousness that says they have to remain. And maybe it's like the Native Americans say, that it's for grounding. I mean, you know, we're bringing in that higher consciousness now. And so we're going to have to be able to ground those energies into our bodies. And the whole alignment and the color system of the chakras are going to change. The whole system for healing is going to shift, because as we bring in those higher consciousness, well, these chakras here are all being shoved down into the ground. And they're being replaced by that higher consciousness. So that's basically the healing of Billie, what the healing of Billie is all about. Healing the consciousness, not just the mind, but the whole entire consciousness. And I guess the scariest thing for me was when I stopped channeling. And when I stopped doing psychic readings, because I had got to where I was relying on my guides and angels telling me what to do, telling me what to expect, guiding me along the way. And now all of a sudden I couldn't hear anything. It was just like they pulled the rug out from underneath my feet, and I was just there. It was like, here, sink or swim. And then what it comes down to is that I had to learn to rely on me. What they wanted me to do was they wanted me to rely on me and quit relying on them. And that's how I know they're true masters. Because they want me to deliver my message from the heart. And now I'm very thankful that I had such good guides and angels that would do that for me. I'm not going to say that there was some healing, some love, some joy. Because my guides and angels were willing to let go of me to make me become who I am. They took me as far as I could go, and they said, "Here now, it's your heart. This is what you came here to do. This is what everybody came here to do, is to share our own message, not somebody else's message. To deliver our own message from the heart, our own knowledge that we brought in with us." And that's scary because now I have to rely on me and I have to rely on what I believe and to trust what's in my heart and comes out is what I came here to do. That's my dharma. And part of my dharma was listening to my guides and angels. That's what they're there for, is to help us and guide us. But I come so dependent upon them that it was like, no, you're not going to be able to do your dharma here completely if we keep holding on to you and teaching you and you keep holding on to us. Now, back in 1994, 95, I mean, I got 4 notebooks of stuff that I channeled. And the information is all good, just like your information's all good. But when I went to publish it, I couldn't. It just didn't feel right. It just didn't. And I was thinking to myself, well, why are all these other people publishing this stuff and I can't publish it? I'm being blocked for some reason. And I always thought, well, I'm just not doing what I was supposed to be doing. I'm just being lazy and just not putting it out there. But now I find that most of the stuff that I channeled from my guides and my angels was coming from my heart to begin with. I was just hiding behind my guides and my angels because I wasn't strong enough or didn't believe that I was strong enough to be myself. But they have their patience and they have their, well, I don't know. They have a lot of patience with me, I know that. A lot of patience because I fought and I struggled and I questioned and I doubted that any of this was even real. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt now that my heart chakra is open. I'm speaking through my God spark or my God self, my higher self, my higher power, whatever you want to call it, my higher consciousness. And this is the message I have to deliver. Everything is shifted. Everything is going to get better. We just have to let go of the past. We have to start standing on our own 2 feet and bringing our own message into the world. I mean, it doesn't mean that later on You know, if you channel Kabir, or if you channel an angel or extraterrestrials, whatever, that does not mean that a communication cannot be kept. But if whoever you're channeling really wants you to deliver your own message, then they'll let go of you. It's not because I say so, because they know that the shift is here. They know it's starting. And more on the news, you're going to see a lot of government officials, you're going to see preachers and all kinds of religious leaders. They're going to get caught preaching one thing and doing another. More and more. And so it's up to us who have been doing this for a long time now to step into that heart space and start delivering our own messages. Because what we have to say from our heart is just as important as any information from extraterrestrials or from other angels or fairies or gnomes. They're preparing you for this day. They're preparing us for the day that we do stand on our own 2 feet and live in love and turn the planet around. We're here to build heaven on earth. Heaven's not out there someplace. Hell's not out there someplace. Hell is just right here. And we've been living in hell for so long that we think it's normal. And now it's time for us all to unite in love from the heart chakra, bringing our higher consciousness into ourselves and speaking our own truth, and uniting to build that love consciousness so strong that people will wake up in an instant. And I think that would just be great. I think it would be great to see this happening. That we could actually see what we've been teaching actually manifest. That the whole world end up living in love. And that by living in the love and bringing in that higher consciousness, as I was watching a video the other night about Pleiadians, and I forget the lady's name, but they talked about how they live by universal law, or the law of creation. That's a much higher law than man's law. And all we have to do is step into it, and we can bring that law of creation, or the universal laws, as some call them, and live from a higher consciousness to where we can put an elimination to all these wars and child abuse and people raping each other and the crime in the streets and somebody going around killing somebody because they're Jewish, or thinking that they're Jewish, or hate crimes, or because you're black, or because you're gay. The whole world is in turmoil. And we're the ones that have been anchoring that love. And now it's time to step out of the passive love and become love in action. It's time that we use the power that we have to clean the streets of the crime. We don't have to go out and fight anybody. We don't have to go buy guns and shoot anybody, because we know the power of love. And all we have to do is just fill our bodies with love from head to toe, from our heart. And that love is like a virus, and it just starts spreading everywhere. just like the diseased mind does. It spreads everywhere. Now I have my truth. You have your truth inside of you. And until we unlock the heart, then I don't know the piece of the puzzle that you have. Because that's where your piece of the puzzle is in your heart. And the next person has to open their heart. And the next person, and the next person, until we put the puzzle together. Because I don't have all the truth. I have parts of the truth, and I write about it in the books, but I don't know if it's correct or not. And I won't know it's correct until I see the love in your hearts coming out with your answers. Not somebody else's answers, but your answers from your heart. And then we can put all the pieces of the puzzle together and we can create a consciousness of love, which religions call the body of God or the body of Christ. It's a consciousness of love, because that's what Jesus taught. The energies are grounding through my tailbone. But that's my message to you tonight. The cycle has come now for hate to hit the highway. And for the wars to stop and people stop dying and being maimed and mentally messed up and confused by war. So my friends, peace and love from the heart. Or any place that you can draw on love from, you draw on it and just give yourself love and heal yourselves. And bring in your higher consciousness so that we can live and love together in peace, and that all walls come down that separate people. Whatever those walls are, or whatever the belief is, that those walls that we've created come down and we unite as one. Namaste.